Yeah. Hi. Hello, everyone. This is Shanmugaraj. Welcome to my channel. One of the aims of this channel is to build a global knowledge sharing platform in the domains of agile, leadership, and project management. You can join me and help me with that either by subscribing to this channel or liking my videos or sharing my videos with your friends and colleagues who are in need of it. Right? So, having said that, let us get into today's topic. Currently, we are discussing topics in Agile Contracting. This is my last video. Today's topic is safe Agile contracts. So, we're going to discuss how Safe 6.0 is describing Agile contracts. Builders of large scale systems must continually align with customers and other stakeholders on what's being built, and they often must do so amid continuous changes driven by development discoveries, evolving customer needs, changing technologies, and competitor innovations. Traditionally, requirements and design decisions were upfront to ensure customers were getting what they wanted. That was the basis of contract with the systems provider. But these early requirements and design decisions constrained teams, reducing their ability to adapt to emerging data that could have informed a solution that could have delivered better economic and competitive value. In short, the contract held them back. Thus, attempts to manage risk by requiring early specificity often backfire to the disadvantage of all stakeholders. Other contract approaches have evolved to avoid this with more shared risk and reward. In many cases, they worked better. But even then, the conventional thinking of fixed requirements tends to influence agreements and expectations. What's needed is a more agile approach to contracts, one that benefits both parties in near and long term. This particular video is going to talk about the current state of contracting and then guides an agile contract approach, which is the safe managed investment contract. Let us have a look at the traditional approaches to purchasing contracts for systems. Buyers often outsource complex systems development to suppliers who can build the systems needed to run their businesses. There is a range of approaches to contracting from firm fixed prices to time and material, with almost every point in between, right? So, this is the picture, what you're seeing, characteristics as the various approaches and highlights how these parties are sharing the risk. So, if you look at that, firm fixed price is a fixed specification, fixed price and date, changes with the fee, risk to suppliers. Target price, fixed specification, fixed date, target price, negotiation profit for the supplier above the target price, shared risk, shared economic opportunities. Then cost plus, target specification, target date, customer pays suppliers cost plus profit margin. Risk is mostly shifted to customer. If you look at the other spectrum, which is time and material, there's no complete specification. Price is based on the rate, ends as specified by customer, risk shifted entirely to customer. Right? So, however, almost everyone generally understand that neither extreme delivers the best overall economic value, right? Left end of the scale are firm fixed price contracts, which is a standard in today's industry. The convenience of this approach is the assumption that buyers will get exactly what they want and are willing to pay for, right? As you see in this picture. We're given some example in the picture. On the surface, this makes sense. In addition, it provides an opportunity for competitive bids, which may be required in many cases. In theory, competitive bids can offer economic advantages as the request can go to the supplier with the lowest cost. However, there are many downsides to fixed price approach. It assumes that the buyer's needs are well understood before implementation. The buyer's needs must be reflected in early requirement specification and design details. This triggers big design upfront traditional development contracts. The contract is typically awarded to a low-cost bidder who may not provide an optimal long-term economic value for the buyer. Moreover, the critical decisions are made far too early to get a fixed bid when little knowledge about the solution is known. The parties have entered into an iron triangle of fixed scope, schedule, and cost. Right? And if facts change, both buyers and suppliers' hands are tied to a contract which may now define something no one wants to build or buy precisely as was stated when written. Much of time is spent negotiating contract changes with a significant waste in it. Worst of all, once the agreement is entered, each party has an opposing economic interest. It is in the buyer's short-term interest to get as much as out of the supplier as possible for as little money as possible. Conversely, it is in the supplier's best short-term interest to deliver minimum value necessary to meet contractual obligations and maximize supplier profits. But the net result is this type of contract often sets up a win-lose scenario, which then influences the entire business relationship between parties, typically to the detrimental to both. Let us look at time and material contracts, which is the right end of the spectrum of the approaches. But the time and material agreements on the far right, which might appear to be highly agile on surface, but also have their challenges. The buyer has only trust to count on. Trust is a precious commodity, and we spend on it, in lean. But misunderstanding the changes in the market or technical conditions and changes in buyer and supplier economic models can force the trust to take the backseat. After all, it's in the supplier's financial interest to continue getting paid for as long as possible. So this can track the contracts out for a longer than necessary. Coupling this approach with the phase gate process, whereby real progress can only be known at the end, that compounds the problem. Challenges can exist on the buyer side as well. For example, when interviewed during a project postmortem, Stephen Warren, executive in charge and COO of the Department of Veterans Affairs Office of Information Technology, noted that, according to the project manager, the project was never in crisis since they were spending entire budget every year and thus were able to renew their funding for the following year. The measure of success at the time was whether the project would continue to get funding rather than whether it could deliver the necessary functionality. We understood that neither of the traditional contracting approaches is not going to help us. What is needed then is a different approach that trusts but verifies that the suppliers are building the right thing in the right way. Ideally, it provides a regular and objective governance for the buyer. It allows suppliers to have confidence in their customers and implied future economic commitments. Characteristics of such an agile contract that would include the ability to optimize the economic value for all the parties in the short and long term. His ability to exploit variability via adaptive responses to requirements as new knowledge emerges. To provide complete and continuous visibility and objective evidence of solution fitness. Provide a measured approach to investment that can vary over time and stop when a sufficient value has been achieved. Offer the supplier near-term confidence in funding and adequate notice when budgeting winds down or stops. Finally, its ability to motivate all the parties to build the best solution possible within agreed to economic boundaries. So these are some of the characteristics of a collaborative approach to agile contracts. Let us get into understanding of safe managed investment contract. The industry would benefit by moving toward an agile contract approach where the economics help both the buyer and the supplier. The safe managed investment contract represent one such approach that we are going to see it now. The first phase of the contract is pre-commitment. Before engaging in any significant investment contract for developing a complex system with many unknowns, some due diligence is required. In this case, customer and supplier work together to come to terms based on the contract. So this is the pre-commitment phase. If you look at this picture, so this is the pre-commitment phase. At one point of time, you will get a contract awarded. Actual PA1 is preparation starting here. So in this process of pre-commitment, customer has a responsibility. There are shared responsibilities and there are supplier responsibilities as well. So I'm going to discuss this in my next slide as well. You can stop this video now and look at this picture to understand what are the different responsibilities explained here as well. During pre-commitment, the customer has specific responsibilities, including understanding these agile contracts, basic constructs and obligations, and defining and communicating the more comprehensive program mission statement to the potential suppliers. The supplier does their initial homework as well. This often includes the first analysis of potential feasibility and alignment of buyer's solution needs with the supplier's core competence. It also demands an understanding of the personnel and resources required over the initial contract periods and a rough cost estimate. The shared responsibilities include establishing initial vision and roadmap, identifying the MEP and additional features, defining initial fixed and variable solution intent, prioritizing the initial art backlog for PA planning, establishing the execution responsibilities, establishing the economic framework, including economic trade-off parameters, PA funding commitment, initial funding levels, and other contractual terms. Sometimes the supplier may need to provide a preliminary estimate to secure PA funding commitment for completion. In other cases, pay as you go approach may be suitable. Based on the terms, the customer will agree to fund the supplier for early PIs. So this is the initial commitment period. The length depends on context, but 2 PIs may be reasonable starting point. Depending on the context, the customer may discuss with several potential suppliers. If significant technical feasibility is involved, this can be often done under some form of feasibility contract whereby each potential supplier is compensated for the efforts to get to commitment. This may be the business as usual for supplier, but these pre-commitment investment regularly occurring in pre-sales activities, right? So however, the customer can move on to award the contract at some point. After pre-commitment, we are entering into contract execution. After the contract is awarded, the development begins as you see in this picture. So we're going to have PA preparation, PA planning, PA execution, then PA evaluation. So which we're going to discuss in detail in the next slide. PA preparation. Both supplier and customer will invest time and effort in preparing content and logistics for the first PA planning session. In some cases, it might be suitable that the first PA planning is part of the pre-commitment phase, though this route requires a significant investment by both parties. The second step is PA planning. The first PA planning event influences the entire program. Their customer and supplier stakeholders plan the first PA in iteration level detail. Then PA execution. Depending on the context, customer participate in various levels in iteration execution. At a minimum, each system demo requires a direct customer engagement. For large solution, however, system demos may be replaced by a more fully integrated solution demo, which can occur more frequently than at PI boundaries. Finally, PI evaluation. Each PI marks a critical milestone for the customer and the supplier. Each milestone, the solution demo is held and solution is evaluated. Agreed to metrics are compiled and analyzed. Decisions are made for the following PI. The inspect and adopt event assess the solution progress and program improvements. At this point, the customer may decide to increase, decrease, or maintain the funding levels and wind down the initiate, based on whether the sufficient value has been achieved. After that, the next PA planning commences with the scope based on the outcome of that decision. Managing risk with the lean startup approach. The safe lean startup cycle shown in this picture is also used to illustrate how significant product development investments are managed with sound lean economics. Right? This lean startup model decreases the time to market and helps prevent the system from becoming bloated with unnecessary features that may never be used. It also enforces the hypothesis build, measure, learn cycle, right? So you can have number of epics, you can hypothesis here, you can build an MEP and try to evaluate with this a measure and then learn, right? Either you can stop the work or implement additional features. If you want to look at the summary as such, the implication is that Agile contract language is modified to reflect a combination of fixed and variable components. The MEP identified at the pre-commitment stage can establish a high-level definition of scope to be delivered over a proposed number of PIs. Beyond the delivery of the MEP, the contract can also specify a number of option periods consisting of one or more PIs. The goal is to optimize the delivery of prioritized feature within each PI. So this process continues until the solution has delivered the value the customer requires. At this point, the customer stops exercising additional option periods or starts winding down funding commitments by the agreement. So this provides the best of both worlds to the customers. Better predictability of estimates associated with a smaller MEP than a complete list of all requirements. The total control over spending required for additional incremental features based on economic outcomes. So such an approach provides the most significant economic benefit to both parties, which will help create stable long-term relationships. We'll come to the conclusion of this video, which is my last video on Agile Contracting. We talked about safe managed investment contracting. We talked about disadvantage of traditional approaches like having a fixed price or having a T&M, right? Then we talked about there are phases like pre-commitment and actual contract awarding. You can use lean startup, right, for agile contracts, right? How it is beneficial to both a supplier as well as to the customers, right? So hope you guys like these kind of videos that helps you to improve your agile knowledge, your agile way of working, and your way of operating, with your customer in agile projects, right? So hope you guys like this kind of videos, right? So with that, I'm signing off. See you in next video.